All right, let's dive in. Today, we're talking about some pretty incredible energy technologies that are finally jumping out of the lab and into the real world. And I'm not talking about small improvements here. These are potential game changers, stuff that's going to completely redefine how we power our lives over the next decade. So, let's get into it.
First, to really get what's happening, you have to understand the stage we're on. We are smack in the middle of a massive global energy transition. It's really not a question of if it's happening anymore, but more about how fast it's going to go, and which new technologies are going to win this clean energy arms race.
And the scale of this thing is just mind-blowing. The global market for this shift is set to absolutely explode. We're talking about going from around $2.6 trillion today to nearly $6 trillion by 2033. Just think about that for a second. That is a colossal pile of money, and it creates this huge wide-open opportunity for new tech to really make a splash.
But, and this is a big but, it's not exactly an even playing field. Right now, the established giants, solar and wind, they are just soaking up almost all the investment money. I mean, you can see it right here. They're getting over $380 billion, while all these cool, new, up-and-coming technologies are basically fighting for the scraps. It's a total David versus Goliath situation.
So, that brings us to the big question for today. If these giants have all the cash, why should we even bother paying attention to these little guys, these challengers? And honestly, do they even have a prayer of breaking through? Well, that's what we're here to find out.
So let's meet our first challenger. And what's so cool about this one is that it's not trying to replace solar, which is already the dominant tech. Nope, it's trying to give it a massive upgrade. Think of it like putting a supercharger on an engine we already know and love.
The tech is called perovskite. Yeah, it's a mouthful, I know, but the idea behind it is just brilliant. It's this special kind of crystal that scientists can basically tune like they're playing with Lego blocks, getting it to absorb different colors of sunlight. And even better, it can be printed like ink. That could make building solar panels way faster and cheaper than the way we do it now.
So, what's the big payoff? Well, how about this? 20%. That's how much more energy a company called Oxford PV can squeeze out of the exact same amount of space just by adding an incredibly thin layer of perovskite on top of a normal solar panel. For you, that could mean 20% more power for your house, or maybe needing 20% less roof space to run everything. It's a huge deal.
And look, this isn't just some fantasy technology for the future. The CEO of Oxford PV, David Ward, he puts it pretty simply. He says the future is starting now. And he's not kidding. His company actually started shipping the first commercial versions of these panels in 2024. This stuff is officially out in the wild.
And they are not alone, not by a long shot. There's a whole pack of really well-funded startups all racing to get this to scale. You've got Swift Solar in the US making these super lightweight cells for things like satellites. Tandem PV is all about making them last longer. And then there's Cubic PV, which is even backed by Bill Gates. So yeah, the race is definitely on.
Okay, so making solar more powerful is awesome, but it doesn't fix the biggest weakness of renewables, right? The sun doesn't always shine, the wind doesn't always blow. To solve that 24/7 power problem, we need a much better way to store all that energy. We need a fix. And that fix is probably going to be solid-state batteries. Now, the difference here is huge. We're literally getting rid of the flammable liquid inside today's batteries and replacing it with a solid material. The result? It's a massive leap. Charging times could drop from an hour to as little as 3 minutes. They're way safer, no more risk of fire, and they last for thousands more charges. I mean, imagine charging your car and the time it takes you to grab a cup of coffee. And they are coming a lot sooner than you might think. We're already seeing pilot production lines starting up. By 2027, both Toyota and Nissan are planning to release the first electric cars powered by this tech. And by the end of the decade, they should be pretty common and not cost much more than what we have now.
So, better batteries can help solve the storage problem. But what if we didn't always have to store the energy? What if we could just tap into a clean power source that is always on, 24/7? A constant, powerful alternative, coming from deep inside the Earth itself.
Now, for decades, that's been the big promise of geothermal energy. But it has always had this one giant catch. It only worked in a few very specific hotspots on Earth, places like Iceland. For pretty much the rest of the planet, it just wasn't an option.
Until now. There's a company called Quaise Energy, a spin-out from MIT, and they've figured out how to use these high-power millimeter waves, just think of them as incredibly powerful, focused microwaves, to literally melt and vaporize solid rock. Their CEO even calls it the first drilling innovation in 100 years. This could finally unlock geothermal energy basically anywhere you want.
And this whole field, they call it enhanced geothermal, it is really starting to take off. You can see the data. The projects are getting hotter, drilling costs have just plummeted, and here's the real kicker. Look at the market confidence. The size of the energy deals signed in just the last couple of years is 10 times bigger than all the previous projects put together. That is a massive signal that things are changing.
Okay, so we've got better solar, we've got better batteries, and we've got geothermal anywhere. But the innovation doesn't stop there. Let's just take a quick peek over the horizon at a couple of moonshot ideas that are getting surprisingly close to becoming a reality.
First up, you've got space solar. Yeah, you heard that right. Companies like Overview Energy are literally building satellites to collect sunlight 24/7 up in orbit and then beam that power safely back down to Earth. Their first demo is planned for 2028. Then there's something called direct air capture. Think of these as giant vacuums for the sky. A new facility in Texas is going to start sucking up 500,000 tons of CO2 from the air every single year, starting in 2025.
Now this is where it all comes together. This is the payoff. Because these aren't just a bunch of separate random breakthroughs. They're all starting to converge, and they're creating this incredible wave of change that's about to hit. It's leading us to a really crucial inflection point.
Just look at how this all stacks up. Over the next couple years, perovskite solar really starts to ramp up. Right after that, the first solid-state batteries hit the market. Then, by 2030, you've got massive geothermal plants and advanced battery storage becoming pretty common. All of this is building towards what the experts are calling an energy transition inflection point, a moment around the early 2030s where the whole system could fundamentally flip.
So the real takeaway here is that all these breakthroughs are happening right now, and they all feed into each other. More efficient solar creates more demand for better batteries. Geothermal that's always on provides a stable backbone for everything else. The question really isn't if our energy system is going to transform anymore. The real question is, how fast can we make it all happen?